In an unlikely turn of events, the Aztecs came back to win against Cortes and the Spanish. Cortes tried to fool Montezuma, but he was outsmarted. Montezuma was prepared for Cortes because he had spies all throughout the land. When Cortes met up with Montezuma, he was surprised by what he encountered. Montezuma said to Cortes, "You underestimate my people and the spies have come out from all around." Cortes and his men didn't have a chance because they were trying to run away, but they couldn't escape. After the defeat of the Spanish, the Aztecs took Spanish technology. This advanced their own technology, such as the creation of guns and gunpowder. These advancements led to the new power, and this new power came after the defeat of the Spanish. Also, the new technology, like the guns and the gunpowder, gave them the ability to conquer other tribes in the area, such as the Caddo tribe. The Aztecs could fight against anyone who wanted to conquer their land. The end result was Spain not having any land in North America, which killed their nationalism. The Aztecs took what is now the West, former Spanish territory, and some of the French area. Not only were the Native Americans able to advance their technology, but they were immune to smallpox. This immunity helped the Native Americans to not get diseases that would kill them when the Spanish would attempt to conquer their land. There was the French and Indian War in the years 1754 through 1763, and the Aztecs allied with the French because the U.S. had a good relationship with them. There were lots of conflict during the French and Indian War. In the end, Britain won the war and took French land, which was New France. The American Revolution affected the Aztecs directly because they allied with America to control the European powers. In the end, the Aztecs and Americans were victorious and celebrated. This alliance did not end with the war, and American culture influences Aztec culture and Christianity was adopted. Before, the Aztecs had human sacrifices to appease the gods, but now that they have Christianity, they remove sacrifices from their religion.
In the 19th century, the Aztecs thrived. Since the Spanish was not able to conquer them, the Aztecs fought their way into the west part of North America, or what is now west to the Midwest of the United States, minimizing the territory of France after the French and Indian War. Their alliance with the colonies in the United States helped America to win the Revolutionary War against the British. In 1803, the French marketed their land to the United States, also known as the Louisiana Purchase. Since the Aztecs owned much of the land in the Midwest to the west, the territory stretched to what is now Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Minnesota. The transaction cost 15 million francs, and Thomas Jefferson led the movement. Slavery was a major part of the economic system in the U.S., and mainly for the South. African slaves were shipped across the Atlantic and sold to do many types of labor for white men. However, the Aztecs did not practice this. They used slaves, but only those that were prisoners. People were not born into slavery. Also, they ceased human sacrifices because of the influence of Christianity. The Aztecs combined their religion and Christianity and sacrificed to God along with other gods using animals like sheep and calves. The southern states smuggled Aztecs who were in those states and used them as slaves. Between the U.S. and Aztec territory, there were open borders. So smuggling Aztecs caused conflict between the Aztecs and the U.S. And there was already trouble between the North and the South of the United States over slavery. Since the Aztecs did not tolerate slavery, black slaves journeyed to the West to join the Aztec army. In 1880 through 1889, the Underground Railroad and avid leader Harriet Tubman took them across the borders. So the demographic of the land became predominantly Aztec and black. The African slaves did not make it that did not make it to the Aztecs fought with the North, who was against slavery. In 1890, the U.S. and Aztecs created a treaty to cease fighting that said the Aztec citizens would not be used as slaves, only if they had their naturalization papers to prove their citizenship. However, slavery in the U.S. was still relevant, and the Confederate States and the Union continued to have conflict. Going into the 20th century, once they recovered from their financial instability after the Civil War with the Aztecs.
Because the war with the Aztecs in the United States started as the Civil War was about to erupt, the Civil War within the Union and the Confederacy was on hold. After the Aztec War, the United States had to recover from its financial instability, and the Civil War went on to continue to the 20th century.
Alternative 20th century. The American Civil War was fought, but it was fought and won later on due to the tensions between the Aztecs and America. The Americans wanted to stay out of the war due to the current war going on between them and the Aztecs. The tensions were high between the Aztecs and America after the treaty was signed due to the Americans not liking the terms that were set. When World War I finally broke out, America and the Aztecs tried to stay out of it. Germany tried to get their side instead of Mexico, their side is in the Aztecs. And the Aztecs did not want to join, due to them being low on resources because of the previous war with America. America had a huge debt to pay off, which put a lot of stress on the economy, which is why they did not join at first. Their resources were low and they wanted to stay out of it. Due to the Germans having unrestricted warfare, US had to join the war. The war ended in the same manner as real history, with the main point of the Germans feeling cheated and weak, which started World War II. After this, the Aztecs isolated themselves from international relationships. They were not involved with any international affairs, except for with the US. The bombing of Pearl Harbor not only killed US soldiers, but Aztec soldiers as well. The Aztecs allied with the US out of fear, and because of the treaty that was signed, the war ended in 1943, 2 years earlier than the real war between the Aztecs, because the Aztecs provided more manpower than just the United States. After the war ended, the Aztecs completely isolated themselves from the United States because they were troubled with the Aztecs. The Aztecs were tired of giving them money, and America was in debt to them.
On September 11, 2001, multiple planes in the United States were hijacked and flown into important structures as a terrorist attack on the United States. Many people died that day because of this attack. Later, it became known that the terror group Al-Qaeda was the coordinator of this attack. As a result of this attack, the Aztecs and the United States formed a stronger alliance. Once this strong alliance was formed, they started to work together to get to the bottom of Al-Qaeda. Once they were working together, there was only a few years that passed before they discovered the leader of Al-Qaeda. His name was Osama bin Laden. The United States and the Aztecs joined forces and headed overseas on one mission, to serve justice for the destruction that was caused in the United States. This mission ended with the death of Osama bin Laden. Later on, the United States and the Aztecs discovered that the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, had close ties to Al-Qaeda. This means that the country of Iraq was full of terror groups and terrorists. This led to a war between the Aztecs/United States and Iraq. This war lasted many years and lots of resources were used during this war. The United States had to borrow lots of money and other resources from the Aztecs. Not only had the United States used many resources and lots of money from the Aztecs, but they still owed the Aztecs for their help during World War I and World War II. All of this debt to the Aztecs led to a recession in the United States, who still could not pay back the Aztecs. This debt caused major tension and controversy between the Aztecs and the United States. Now we are to the point in history that is very recent. Last year in 2016, Donald Trump was elected President of the United States.
One of the platforms on his agenda was to build a wall on the border between the United States and the Aztec territory. In light of the conflict between them and in order to limit immigration from the Aztecs into the United States.